Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're enjoying a little taste of spring. At least we had that yesterday, maybe not so much today, but I understand the weather's supposed to get better. So thank you for being here with us and welcome. We have a really good lineup today. I want to just tell you who's here. This event is being recorded and it'll be posted after the event. Jay Dickinson has offered to curate the questions, so thank you, Jay. We want to make sure that after the presentation that we focus on questions that relate to our theme today, and we'll try and get through as many questions as we can, and then we will post any questions and their answers afterwards, as well as the event. So I think our topic today is important, but before we go through this, I want to remind everybody that we have a respite day on March 24th and then again on April 15th. And I want to really encourage faculty, staff, others not to schedule required meetings, theses, assignments for students. This is really a time for students to take a break. As well as for you to take a break and get some things done that have been piling up because you haven't been able to do that. Okay, so with us today we have Jay Jacobs, who's our Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, and he's going to be sharing some good things that we can do to prepare for our admitted student visit days and really support our yield efforts and some innovations that he has going. And I know he's going to be asking for all of our support on that. And then Bill Falls is going to support us in letting us know what's happening for fall 21 planning. We're very fortunate to have Jan Carney here, our public health expert and physician, who's going to give us some updates in public health issues and the role that UVM has played in the COVID response. It's really timely. And then we're very fortunate to have Ava Casarobo, who is a wonderful faculty member who's going to give us some online remote teaching ideas, and what she has found has been successful. So with that, I would like to start it off with Jay Jacobs so that he can share with us some things that are happening for admitted student visit days and our future class in the fall of 2021. Go ahead, Jay.
Thanks, Patty. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. To those of you who haven't met, Jay Jacobs, VPEM, he, him, his pronouns. As Patty said, all things are looking good. This is looking to shape up to be one of the largest, one of the most competitive, and one of the most diverse classes in University of Vermont history. But it won't happen without all of your hard work. So we thank you in advance for your support in all of our yield efforts. Admission offers are out the door, financial aid packages and merit scholarships are out the door, and it is truly yield season in enrollment management and across the schools and colleges and the student affairs unit. So thank you. We got a lot going on, 5 different virtual admitted student visits. The first 2 had big numbers. On February 10th, about 850 admitted students attended. On February 25th, 600 plus students attended, and we have 3 more coming up with a lot of reserved seats already. We're doing small thematic spin-offs that we're calling a closer look, so around food and agriculture, health and medicine, STEM, business and economy, etc. And of course, chatting with our advocates, with faculty and staff, individual appointments with admission officers and financial aid officers, etc. Really exciting news is for the first time in a long time, we have admits in all 50 states, plus Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. So our admissions team is hard at work trying to yield 52 students from all 52 states and areas that they're calling the 52 for 52 campaign, which includes some personal outreach, connections to current students, faculty, staff, alumni from those specific areas. There are 24 states that have under 30 admits. So proving to be the more difficult states to check off all of those boxes. And in the really small states, for example, Puerto Rico only has 6 admits, Mississippi only has 3 admits, etc. We're exploring the opportunity of sending Vermont-specific swag bags to them. Think reusable straws, Ben and Jerry's coupons, maple candies, etc. to hopefully get representation from across the country here in the first year class for fall 21. As Patty said, it takes a village. So we look to you all for your help. In the yield season, customer service is kind of the name of the game. So we appreciate your quick responses, your positivity, and your enthusiasm about the university when talking to admitted students and their families. If you all have any questions or I know we all have a lot of work to do, but if you're looking for some more work to do, don't hesitate to reach out and we can provide you with some lists of students in your areas for you to reach out to and contact on the university's behalf. A lot going on, but we're looking forward to a strong 6 weeks here as we march toward May 1, and we will be back in touch with more enrollment information in early May. Thanks, Patty.
Thanks so much, Jay. And I really like the concept of 52 for 52. So we're really counting on people to pull out all their strategies to support us bringing in this most diverse and exciting class that we hope to see will be on UVM campus in the fall. So that's a great segue for Bill Falls, our Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, who's also leading the way in our UVM strong working group for the Faculty and Academic Affairs Committee. So Bill, tell us what's happening for fall 2021 planning.
Sure, thanks, Patty. So just a quick update on fall planning. As announced on Monday, President Garamella said that we are back for full on campus in fall 2020. So that's what we're planning for. Schedule of courses, of course, was released on Monday, showing that we're back. But, you know, the state might give us some guidelines that will cause us to sort of have to adjust. And so we're preparing for that. We're involved with contingency planning, and our awesome registrar's office has a strategy for contingency planning. And what the registrar's office is doing is imagining that what if we had to reduce our course capacities by 50% because of the need for continued social distancing. So the registrar's working really hard right now in running sort of a shadow schedule of courses with adjusted room capacities. And the idea there is that we will have a number of courses perhaps that could not be scheduled with the adjusted room capacities. And that'll give us an opportunity to create customized contingency plans for those courses that fall out. So we'll get that list of courses to dean's offices. Dean's offices will work with chairs and program directors to figure out how we can mount that course because we couldn't find a room that met this requirement of 50% capacity. Again, this is just contingency planning. We are totally preparing for a regular in-person fall semester, but it's always prudent to be prepared. Our expectation is that if there is going to be some guidance from the state, that it'll come sometime during the summer. So having a contingency plan teed up is really prudent. So stay tuned for that. If you don't hear from your dean's office, you're all good. But you might hear from your dean's office or your chair and saying, you know, maybe we need to think about moving this course to online or something like that in order to prepare for this contingency. The only other thing I would mention, and this is just a request from the registrar's office and Student Financial Services, is that if you are hearing from your advisees or from other students that students are struggling financially, please refer them to Student Financial Services. They want to help. And students don't often know that there may be help for them. We may not be able to accommodate every student need, but surely if you have a student that is expressing to you some financial concern, please refer them to Student Financial Services. So that's all in terms of updates from fall. We're planning for a regular fall semester with some contingency planning. So stay tuned and we'll keep you up to date.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to your committee for all the hard work and Gary's leadership on that as well. Okay, next up, we are fortunate to have Jan Carney with us. As you know, one of our professors in the College of Medicine and the Associate Dean for Public Health, and she has, I'm sure, lots to share with us about what's going on with our public health status related to the coronavirus, vaccines, etc. So, Jan, go right ahead.
Thank you, Patty. I want to start by saying I think we're overall at a point where I call it stay the course. We can see the finish line and everyone is tired and it's really hard, but we have to press on and keep doing everything that we know works from the science as more and more people are getting vaccinated. I'm watching, as we all are, the data that comes out from the Department of Health and look at numbers of new cases, particularly in our community, and that overall test positivity rate, as that gives us a reflection of how much infection we're seeing in our community on an ongoing basis. One of the questions I'm getting a lot of questions about, and that is in the news quite a bit, is about the question of the variants and what does that mean? We know that there are a number of variants, and they're calling them, CDC is calling them variants of concerns, some from the United Kingdom, seen everywhere in the United States, from South Africa, seen in about half the states, from Brazil, seen in about 12 states, and a couple new ones from California as well. What do these mean in terms of our overall strategy? In my opinion, it means that we keep on the same course, that we continue on, do everything we can to get those vaccines out to people, and also do everything we can to keep the infection rates as low as practically and humanly possible in our communities, because that helps postpone that while we're getting everyone vaccinated. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that. The other thing about vaccines is that the Department of Health in the state of Vermont continues to increase their supply and roll them out through pharmacies, clinics all over Vermont. That's a great thing. I'd suggest we just keep an eye on their website to see when they're eligible. And as I've been telling everyone, I recommend as soon as you're offered one, please take it, and it will protect you and your family, the people you work with, and contribute in protecting our community. And then lastly, I would just comment on there's a lot of questions about vaccines. And again, I'm happy to answer those. Look at all the great science that's on our CDC website and our College of Medicine and the Department of Health, but also talk to your trusted healthcare professional if you have questions about your own particular situation. So I'll stop there, Patty. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jan. We appreciate your perspective from the public health arena and also for the information that you're always providing to senior leadership as we're trying to make important decisions. So lastly, we have Ava Casarabo, who is a lecturer actually in electrical and biomedical engineering. And we're very excited to have her because we understand she's pretty awesome in her skill set for online and remote teaching. And we just thought it might be nice to hear from faculty who have been successful and can share just a few ideas to support the teaching of faculty, which also then supports the success of our students. So Ava, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. And now I'm even more nervous with this glowing introduction. I really appreciate being here. And as Dr. Prelock said, my name is Eva Kosorabo. I'm a lecturer in the electrical and biomedical engineering department, and also a CTL faculty associate. And so I was invited here today to share a couple of tips regarding online and remote teaching. And specifically, I will be focusing on three things. things. Firstly, how to keep students engaged. Secondly, how to keep students on track. And then lastly, I will be pointing towards more resources if you're curious to learn more. The next slide, please. Thank you. So to keep students engaged, well, my main tip here and what I try to do most is to create engaging assignments, which of course is rather vague, but there are a couple of things I try to keep in mind when I create assignments, and that is making them as related to students' interests as possible, even possibly offer choices for them to complete either a different format or on a different topic, involve their peers and have a peer element, and take advantage of the fact that I'm online. A really quick example of an assignment I had was the method decision tree. And in the first part, students had to, because in circuit analysis, there's different methods to go about solving a circuit, had to create a decision tree for themselves on how they choose what method to use depending on what the circuit is like. That was part one. Part two, they had to look at a colleague's decision tree and apply it to a circuit and see how their peers think differently about the same types of problems as themselves. And so that was one way to do that. Now, caveat, I do use the Blackboard discussion board to set this up, but I highly recommend selecting the feature where participants must create a thread first in order to see other people's work, just to maintain academic integrity. Next slide, please. To keep students on track, there is a variety of things that I could recommend, but the main one is to leverage Blackboard as much as possible. Sure, just looking at has the student submitted this assignment or not, that is rather basic, but the very nice feature that Blackboard has is you can track the number of views of specific folders. And here, very small is a plot where I have one of those reports, and you can clearly see that the due date was on the third to last day. That's where you can see most students accessed the folder, but you can also get individual reports on who accessed that particular folder when. And then, of course, once you see some red flags about students' behavior and submissions, you have a variety of ways to reach out to them. And I typically try to think, first, is this an announcement that would be beneficial to everyone? And then I just send it out via Blackboard to everyone. If it is something academic, then an academic alert is appropriate. If it's something where I feel it's more of a personal issue to the student, I will submit a care form. All of those things are very convenient to use. Next slide, please. And so if you are looking for more ideas related to teaching, there's a whole network at UVM that is here to support us faculty, and it really depends on what it is you are looking for. You can get something as extensive as a 4-week course on online teaching, which I personally took TEO and also helped lead it every now and then, and that is something that I would highly recommend. It is the course that helped me become the teacher I am, but it can be as direct and personal as a 1-hour session with a CTL staff member or faculty associate like me. The only thing you'll need to do for that is go to the CTL website, look for the faculty associate contact, and send out an email. And so this was my really quick, really brief introduction of ideas for teaching online, and I'm happy to answer any questions that might come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eva. I love the keep them engaged, keep them on track, and I agree. I took the Teaching Effectively Online course many years ago, and that really did make a difference, and I know CTL is doing a great job. We are now open for questions, and before we get there, I know we also have Gary Durer online, who's our VP for Operations and Safety, and Jim Figaro, our Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs. So Gary, just want to give you a minute. Is there anything that you would like to share with the group?
So thank you very much, Patty. I guess what I would first start with saying is that our students have been really exceptional the last 3 weeks that we've been doing twice weekly testing. We completed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is the first of the week that they're supposed to test, and we did over 10,000 tests again. So since the beginning of March, we've done over 50,000 tests. So I really want to applaud our students with regards to that. They have really been exceptional in stepping up with that, even coming in on a Saturday. I would say that some of you may be hearing about some activities we're looking to plan on campus as a way to help relax and create some fun in there on campus. We also recently got approval from the state to allow spectators at athletic events. We're limiting that currently to our students, but we think that'll be a great release for our students to give them something to do outdoors, especially the weather's looking good coming up. So thank you. I'll be available to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Gary. And actually, we have our first question that has come through, and this is a question that Gary and I are always reflecting on, and had a conversation this morning about it. Is there a plan to have a vaccine clinic on campus, particularly for our students? I'm aware that everything Dr. Carney just said about the importance of keeping the virus levels down in the community would get a tremendous boost if our students were vaccinated. It would also help build back some of the morale that has been lost this semester. I think it's an important question, and Gary and I actually have posed that with the Department of Health. We're in close contact with Mark Levine, and I think he also thinks it's a good idea. There is a process that they're using. It's just access to the vaccines and having vaccines coming in, but it does make sense. I know the governor's focus right now is going to be, you know, certainly our most vulnerable in ages, and so everyone should, when you're eligible, schedule your time. But I think the current round is teachers, educators who have a lot of connections in the community, and then corrections. And I think they recognize that 16 to 30-year-old group is an important one. And maybe it'll be by the end of April. We're keeping our fingers crossed. But Gary, anything else you want to add to that?
Patty, you summarized that wonderfully. And I would say that if we were contacted tomorrow by the Vermont Department of Health saying that they could provide us a supply of vaccines, we would certainly work very quickly to move that into an implementation. We do not control the vaccines like we do the testing. That's completely controlled by the Vermont Department of Health. And I get emails all the time. Can we advocate? Can we advocate for this group or that group? To give you some level of example, our isolation quarantine facilities, we had advocated for some of the staff that are supporting that space and going into that space, and not just our nursing, like our food service and custodial, and we were not approved for that group. So it's not a particularly easy task of getting people on that list. We were successful in getting our students who and our staff that are working in the testing center approved, and they're now just getting into the queue for those tests. So trust me, we have been advocating, pushing, requesting, and it's just the supply is controlled by the Vermont Department of Health.
Yes, and that's the second question, is anyone advocating on a daily basis? And I think that, you know, the goal is to get everyone vaccinated as quickly as possible. So we are working closely with Mark Levine and his team. And we just had a conversation actually with him this morning. Jan, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that whole concept of vaccines and supply and demand and all of that.
I agree with it. It's been up to this point kind of a bottleneck. And so the great news is there's more and more vaccine available at the federal level coming to our state. So I'm optimistic that this problem will get resolved in the very near future, listening to the governor's optimism and that of the health department. So we continue to advocate. So thank you.
Thank you, Jan. The next question is a great one, and we have talked about this as well. Is there any move towards using the 3-foot distance in classrooms consistent with the CDC guidelines? I think that's what we're heading towards for the fall or less. I'm not sure that we're there yet here on campus, but Gary, anything you want to add to the 3-foot distancing, and or at least having space. And I know Jan and I've talked about this as well. You know, we don't want people to be in crowded spaces, but we likely will not have to continue the level of distancing. But Jan or Gary, if you want to add anything to that.
I'll speak first to the issue around any changes. I recognize the CDC has modified their distancing. Right now, the state still has us at 6 foot, so physical distancing. So I'm very hopeful that in the coming weeks and months, especially as we look towards fall, that the state will modify that, especially as the number of positive cases continues to go down in the state, as we rapidly increase the number of vaccinated people. That I think that will be when we start to see that trigger. We're very hopeful for fall semester that it will be much further reduced than that.
Yes, Jan, did you want to add anything?
Nothing to add. I think that's exactly right.
So, Jan, this might be for you too, just from your perspective as a public health expert. There is a question about requiring vaccinations for students, faculty, and staff before a full return to campus, with exceptions for those with medical reasons. As you know, when any vaccine is what in their EUA framework, where it's not gone through its entire process, you can't require things. We can strongly encourage, and we haven't really had, until we get to the point of beyond the EUA requirements, then we can determine if this is the right thing. It would have to be bargainable with faculty and staff. With students, it's a little different in terms of immunizations. But Jan, your thoughts, and then Gary.
I think that's exactly right, Patty. And that the strategy now is to say that the process they've gone through for this EUA is safe and effective. Let's get those out as soon as we get the vaccine in Vermont to as many people as fast as we can. And if people have questions, help them get those questions answered, and that make it easy for them to get one of the vaccines that have gone through the process. And I totally agree with you.
So Gary, I'm going to let you add anything you want, and then the next question is relevant as well. We've had this conversation about groups that are vaccinated. Is there any flexibility in travel and social distancing in classrooms with masks on, etc.? Go right ahead, Gary.
So I would say with regards to travel, obviously if a student, we're certainly discouraging travel for our students. But obviously the changes for those that are vaccinated, not having to quarantine. We're using the guidelines as it relates to vaccinated people with regards to close contacts for contact tracing. I don't think that for the foreseeable future that we'll make any changes to our classroom requirements. And that's largely because if you look at our campus population, we have a very small percentage of our students that are currently vaccinated. Our medical students, we've made some different arrangements for them because they are all vaccinated as medical students. We have a handful of nursing students that are fully vaccinated, but the vast majority of our campus is not vaccinated at this point. So it's difficult for us to make changes with regards to the allowances that were permitted around vaccinated people. I would say that we are considering the changes to the household guidance that the governor announced last week. We feel right now with our current situation on campus, and we messaged that to you all yesterday, that it's premature to make that decision. Right now, we continue to see that the spread has occurred through gatherings, whether it's a gathering of 5 or 6 people or a larger gathering of 20 people, that it's just not warranted to make that adjustment right now. We would love to do it. We've heard our students' desire for that, but currently that's not something we feel we can do. I think when we get to fall, I think you're going to see a significant change in what our policies are related to those that are vaccinated.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that framework. I know one of the, looks like we're having trouble seeing some of the questions, and oh, here we go. But I do know there was a question in queue. Okay, yes. One is related to how many positive weekly cases are the threshold for moving to remote this semester? And I think it's less about number of cases because we have been able to manage our quarantine and isolation, but we're realizing the spread has nothing to do with what's happening in the classrooms. That's not where it's occurring. And right now we're on the downhill threshold, which is so great for our on-campus students. And many of the positives we've had this week for on-campus, they've been in quarantine. Where we're seeing the uptick now is in off-campus. And so I think it's really important that we look at what is the reasoning for the spread. We had some problems in the halls and we made some pretty significant changes, which actually led to positive change, and we increased testing twice weekly, which helped us catch some of the more fast spreading variants, but it doesn't really, we're not having the problem in the dining halls and in the classrooms. Gary, anything you want to add to that?
Oh, nothing further to add to that, I agree.
Okay, I don't see any other questions coming in. So Jim, anything that you want to add from a faculty perspective, what faculty should be thinking about as they're preparing for the fall or the CTL elements, or Ava can also add what are some of the workshops that seem to be most effective for faculty?
Thank you, Patty, and let me first say thank you to Eva and her fellow faculty associates at CTL. They have been logging a lot of hours, which is great, to find that our colleagues are finding their services useful. So on that note, we are actually recruiting for the next cohort of faculty associates for academic year 21-22. So if you're interested, please check out the CTL website. There's a link there to an application form, which I believe is due in early April. And speaking of that as well, our beloved Annie Muir-Close will be stepping down as a CTL director. So we are in the process of searching for a new director for next year. And the deadline for that is March 19th, which is tomorrow. But if you're interested and need more time, please feel free to reach out to me. We can certainly make accommodations. And speaking of CTL workshops, there's a lot of them that are posted on the website and some that are being planned for the end of the spring semester. And if you don't see what you're looking for, let us know and we can certainly plan to provide one. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Ava, anything else you want to add about workshops that you feel are particularly effective?
Thank you. So personally, if you do have it in the cards to spend 4 weeks on a course, I would highly recommend TEO, Teaching Effectively Online, because one thing that course does very well is give you an idea of what it is like to be a student in an online course. And that perspective is invaluable, because one thing I learned is that I personally have a hard time reading more than 20 pages a day on a particular topic. So that's why I started mixing in podcasts and videos and all sorts of other forms of way of conveying information into my online courses. So that was one big thing I got out of TEO, the experience as a student. Now, if 4 weeks is not in your bandwidth right now, that is absolutely understandable. And therefore, as Jim said, CTL faculty associates as well as CTL staff members are happy to help with any type of questions you might have regarding teaching and online teaching, remote teaching, any type of teaching you can think of. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava, very much. And Jan, a question has come in about the medical school requirements and why are they different? I mean, the logical answer is our medical students and our nursing students have direct patient contact. And so those were high priority individuals, just like our first responders who are getting vaccinated. But anything else about differences in medical school requirements?
That's exactly right, Patty.
Okay, great. Let's see. There looks like there's a question coming in for Bill about fall classes. So Bill, can you speak more to the issue of whether some questions will be asked to go online in the fall, and how will that decision be made?
Yeah, thanks, Patty. Again, we're doing contingency planning on the off chance that the state imposes some guidelines and some restrictions on our capacities in our classrooms. So we've decided to just peg our contingency plannings at 50% capacity for our classrooms, and the strategy for the registrar is to rerun the classroom scheduling with our current schedule of courses and see what courses fall out. Those are the courses we'll have to then begin to work with the faculty and see how we can accommodate those courses using the tools that are available. It could be asking those courses to be taught in some other modality. It could be perhaps moving the class time, which would be disruptive to the regular course schedule. We want to avoid having students to have to reschedule or move students around, but we really won't know though what courses may be affected in this contingency plan until the registrar's office has completed that room assignment run, and then we'll be able to reach out to individual units, have them work with their faculty to see what options there are should we have to pursue a contingency plan to get those courses mounted. So it probably would be in the next few weeks that we'll have that information of what courses might get kicked out and not being able to be scheduled if room capacities were to be reduced. And so we would certainly get those contingency plans in place by the end of the term. And then we wait for state guidance for the fall, which Gary believes should come sometime in July.
Thank you so much, Bill. And I think the important piece is this is a contingency only if the requirements move us in that direction, but the registrar also knows we're giving priority to the registrar and instructional classroom space, so that space that we usually have big meetings and things, our priority will be educational space other than maybe the Davis Center, so people can have some events. But, you know, we use Memorial Lounge, we use Ira Allen Chapel. Those things have been very effective for larger classes. And we know for our first and second year students, that's really important. So we're giving priority to education in the fall. I don't see that we have any more questions. And so I'm just gonna ask a couple more questions of our panel, and then I'm going to give you the gift of time because I know people are feeling like there's so much going on. But Jay, is there any last minute exciting tips or things that you really need faculty to engage in so that we can be successful in our yield effort?
Sorry.
Like I said, I think, just being in touch with admitted students and their families, providing your energy and your enthusiasm about the fall opening for sure that we're talking about at length here today. I think students and parents, like all of us, are, hoping for a glimpse of normalcy here. And I think the announcement that went out, we did kind of retweak that and send it out to admitted students late yesterday. So we're hoping for a little bit of a boost, but their students are starting to hear from other institutions this week and next week, certainly by April 1, with May 1 acceptance fee deadlines nationally. So I would just encourage you all to continue to communicate with the students, liaisons and admissions from your schools and colleges. If students have questions about their financial aid packages, they can schedule one-on-one individual times with the student financial services team members right on their on the SFS website. But it's all about energy, positivity, and customer service at this point.
Thank you, Jay. Very, very helpful. Just a reminder to those of you who have concerns about what are the travel guidelines. We're pretty much staying with our travel guidelines. We're going to be releasing some for the summer. I think that will be coming from Richard Cate's office. I expect a few changes for that. Hopefully things will be different in the fall. Remember about respite day on March 24th and April 15th. Really give students that time to rejuvenate. You know, this would be the time that they would be doing a spring break normally. And just want to reiterate the importance of academic alerts. Now is the time. It's very helpful for students to have updated grades by the first week of April, so they can really make a decision about whether or not they are going to continue, what changes they need to make, or whether withdrawing is the best possibility for them. And the withdrawal deadline is April the 8th. So I want to thank our panelists, Gary, Jay Dickinson, Jay Jacobs, Jim, Bill, Ava, and Jan for your time. I want to thank UES for always making things work for us. It's really amazing how you are able to manage this. And thank you all for the work that you're doing for our community and for our students. We just have to get through to graduation. I guess that's another great announcement. And that is we plan to do with the state's approval. We're just waiting for those guidelines to have at least in-person small graduation ceremonies for our seniors this year. No visitors or families, unfortunately, but at least to allow students to celebrate their accomplishments over the last 4 years. So thank you all. Have a great rest of the Thursday and hope the weekend is beautiful and you take some time to enjoy nature. Thank you, everyone.